I think there's a little iffy there. I'm gonna answer. Oh, she's hot. Why the fuck does she have to message me now? Anyway, I'm not gonna be a simp. I'm gonna wait till I message her back. um, I'm gonna answer a question that I've actually gotten asked a number of times now on my live chats that I did. And it's just the idea, Clayton, why do you like games like Karnav's Revenge and Street Fighter Alpha 1, but you didn't like Street Fighter Alpha 2 or whatever game I might be mentioning? And I've said this before. I have said that I think Karnav's Revenge and Street Fighter Alpha 1, I've said I think they're kind of clusterfuck games. I've, some people think that, oh, Clayton hates this game or he likes this game, whatever. I think all games have their good and their bad, right? A lot of times when you like a game, sometimes it just might be, oh, I like this game because I remember I was playing it with my friend a lot at the time, right? You know what I mean? So there's a certain perspective or it appeals to you at a certain point in your life, right? So, there's good and bad of every game, but there's also the idea of that, like, can you appreciate the bad and can you appreciate the good? Like, what is the value and, the kind of like, what do you appreciate more? Like, can you get over the bad? Can you appreciate the good, right? So when I say I like games like Karnav's Revenge or Street Fighter Alpha 1, I'm not saying they're not clusterfuck games. I definitely believe they do. But let's again, we're talking about Street Fighter, and I can do a Street Fighter 3 series as well, but I guess we'll just keep this Street Fighter Alpha. Why do I quotation marks like Street Fighter Alpha, but I don't quotation marks like Street Fighter Alpha 2? Which I never said really, but why don't I appreciate Street Fighter Alpha 2 compared to Street Fighter Alpha 1? I feel like Street Fighter Alpha 1 has more of a novelty value than Street Fighter Alpha 2 in the grand scheme of fighting games. I think Street Fighter Alpha 2, if you're talking about a game that is just cooler, Street Fighter Alpha 2 is incredibly cooler than Street Fighter Alpha 1 as a game. There's more characters, better stages, better music, you know what I mean? But when you get to the idea, roll with me here and I'm going to talk about this. When you get to the idea of the game, I think the idea overall of Street Fighter Alpha 2, the game sucks. And it does not have the novelty charm that Street Fighter Alpha 1 has, right? A lot of people that hate Street Fighter Alpha 1 or say it's a terrible game don't understand why the bad things in the game, which I can get into, right? But Street Fighter Alpha 1, in all its quirkiness, actually still has some charm to it. It has some novelty value. It feels like, yeah, this game has most definitely some bad shit in it. You know what I mean? It doesn't necessarily work correctly if you think about it. But the core idea of the game still has more of a novelty charm. It's kind of like, yeah, the game is weird. And I appreciate it. I appreciate it in that sense. Street Fighter Alpha 2. Why do I think the core idea of Street Fighter Alpha 2 sucks? Street Fighter Alpha 2, the core idea of the game sucks because the things that are bad about Street Fighter Alpha 2, to me personally, objectively and subjectively, I guess, whatever you want to call it, are just so bad. I think it ruins the game. And this is coming from a person that, again, anyone that knows me, I like old Street Fighter. I like games, that have very powerful things, right? You know what I mean? The chaos and the balance and the chaos of every character having so many powerful things, right? And I've made videos about that before. But when you look at Street Fighter Alpha 2, Street Fighter Alpha 2 has moves that just don't fucking make sense. And it's fucking weird, dude. Like, again, we look at something, say, like Rose doing a duck strong, Adon doing a duck strong. Very powerful moves in the game. I'm not against that, right? You know what I mean? But it feels like those moves in the game are mistakes. Do you get what I'm saying? It feels like a lot of times moves just feel like they're mistakes or the developers just didn't give a fuck. Whereas if you play like an old school Street Fighter 2, you're like, oh man, maybe that move's bullshit, but that move's bullshit too. This move's bullshit. This move, blah 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 blah, right? When you look at moves that are overpowered or underpowered or badly designed in Alpha 2, it just feels like it's a mistake. It's like, well, what the fuck is this? You know what I mean? I'm not against Rose's Duck Strong being good per se. I'm not against Adon's Duck Strong being so strong what it is. You know what I mean? But then, okay, you got moves like that. But then look at badly designed moves like Charlie's overhead. Why the fuck is Charlie's overhead actually punishable on hit? Does that make sense to anybody? Do you see, like, when you get in, like, why the fuck is Charlie's overhead so slow, and then I get comboed because I hit Charlie's overhead? Why does Guy's Hurricane Kick? I can use Guy's Hurricane Kick to go through a fireball, but they forgot to give it a hitbox and it can't hit the fireball. So Ryu did a Hadouken. I Hurricane Kick through it, but I don't. They forgot to put the hitbox on it, so it actually hits the move. Then why do I do a slide with Guy? I hit the guy with Guy's slide, and then I get comboed. Like some moves in the game? I mean, there's more examples, but you just play the game. You're like, these moves, they don't make sense, and it ruins it for me. Because I'm like, this game isn't really well thought out, right? I'm like, this game is just kind of stupid when you think about stuff like that, and I don't respect that kind of shit, right? You know, you get into, and then of course the whole custom combo things. I think custom combos are one of the most strangest, hypocritical things that the fighting game community, and not that Alpha 2 is the most popular fighting game of all time by any means, right? But it certainly has a cult people that like Alpha 2, right? But Alpha 2 with custom combos is one of the most weirdest hypocritical moments of fighting games in the history when it came out, because we think about what was one of the backlashes of Street Fighter Alpha. People didn't like custom combos, right? People don't like custom combos, or not custom combos. They don't like chain combos. I'm sorry, they didn't like chain combos, right? Why doesn't a Street Fighter player, for sake of argument, like chain combos, right? Because it makes it too easy to like hit confirm it, you know, which we didn't even say hit confirm back in the day, but now people say hit confirm. Chain combos were too easy, you know what I mean? Too easy to chain combo to super. And remember, some people don't even like supers. That, you know, there's some people that don't even like super turbo because they don't like supers, right? So we don't like chain combos. It's too easy to, again, we didn't use the word hit confirm back in the day, but chain combos are too scrubby, whatever, right? You know what I mean? Oh, it's so easy to, you know, combo into super then. You know, we don't like chain combos. So then you add custom combos, which are basically, custom combos. Hey, we can just keep on doing the same special move. Do people really think that custom combos were so much more skillful than like chain combos, right? I mean, it's kind of like, so not only that, you also remember there's an idea of people they don't like the idea of instant supers. You weren't blocking before the super hits you. You know what I mean? The super is going to hit you. So isn't that the same thing with custom combos? So then you're combining those two elements. You are now combining the two elements that a lot of Street Fighter players do not like. Of, if you weren't blocking before, I now do this custom combo, which is, you know, are people really saying custom combos are more complicated than doing a chain combo to a super before? So like, what a perfect storm of hypocritical nature of the fighting game community that people like, I hate chain combos. I don't like that some supers, you know, if you weren't blocking before it happens, you get hit, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And now we've added these two things in a sense, right, into one. So now it's like, man, the custom combos are doing more damage than the supers. It's kind of like, it's just a clusterfuck when you think about the game like that. It's just kind of like, there's so many, and some people, you know, they'll defend custom combos because they'll be like, oh no, you know, the game might be unbalanced, but custom combos make it balanced because every character can custom combo. Every character can, you know, if they're right in your face and you weren't blocking, they'll custom combo you. Every character is powerful now. Every character has this powerful like thing. And again, it's just such a fucking weird, hypocritical, critical, perfect storm of the nature of the fighting game community. Like, I don't like this thing, but I'm kind of doing the same thing, so I like this because I like the game better, right? But such a fucking weird thing in the fighting game community that people defend that. And, you know, I think custom combos, too, when you defend custom combos in that sense, it actually kind of gets to, in a sense, Dragon Ball FighterZ. I've used the analogy that a lot of people, when they complain about Dragon Ball FighterZ, they complain about homing dash, right? I'm trying to think, how should I say this? Like, homing dash. People, a lot of times you don't hear characters complaining about the character per se. They're complaining about a game system mechanic that everyone can use. And there's a very fine line, there's a very fine balance of having interesting game mechanics or a game system that every character can use, while not making it so powerful that it becomes the main narrative of the game, right? So when you see, and I'm not even saying, again, if you watch my Dragon Ball FighterZ videos, I'm not saying I think homing dash is the worst thing ever, or vanish or any of that kind of shit, right? But when a certain game mechanic becomes the most main talked thing about a game, I think that is like very dangerous for a game, right? Because you want characters to be like, oh, this character has this character is so unique in this way. So when you have a game like Alpha 2, that one of the most important things that people complain about the game is the game system itself of custom combos, etc. I think that's a very dangerous narrative for a game, and it shows. I think it puts a bad spot on the game, which I agree with in that sense, because I think custom combos are stupid, right? But and then of course Alpha 2 as well. Alpha 2 is kind of a ghetto Street Fighter, and in some way, you know what I mean. It is most certainly a Street Fighter game. Besides this, but Alpha 2 is kind of the start of when certain moves, they started not doing what you thought they would do. You can start beating DPs in this game with things that probably shouldn't beat a DP, etc., right? But if you get to a game like Alpha, Street Fighter Alpha, and all its quirkiness and randomness, its novelty value, moves still do what you think they would do. Right? You don't play Alpha 1 and you're like, I can't, I don't know why does that move do that, right? It's like, why does that move do that, right? I guess unless we're talking about something like Rose's, unblockable super kind of shit, right? Like that kind of shit you kind of roll your eyes at, because that kind of shit doesn't make sense. But for the most part, when you play Alpha 1, you don't look at a move and you can't fathom that why does this move work this way? It's understandable, right? Whereas again, Alpha 2, though, you start getting into moves that don't make sense. They feel very fucking out of place, like the developers didn't try it, didn't test it out or something like that, right? And I've made the argument that I actually think if you just take the core idea of Alpha 1 versus Alpha 2, right? But you just switch over, Alpha 1 had all the characters, Alpha 1 had all the stages. If you're just taking the core idea of the game, I think people would have liked Alpha 1 more. I do. I think Alpha 1 would still be thought of as better than Alpha 2. I think the charm of Alpha 2 really is that it was a cool vibe at the time. All those characters, all the stages, the secret stages. I think that the game is infinitely cooler than Street Fighter Alpha 1. Of course it is, right? But the core idea of the game, I think Alpha 2 sucks. Right? I mean, I'm sure if you took away custom combos and all this kind of stuff and fixed some of the moves, yeah, it would be better than Alpha 1. But you could do the same for Alpha 1 as well, right? You know what I mean? So again, hopefully you get what I'm getting at. I just think the bad parts about Alpha 2 are just so much worse in like fundamentally badly designed than a game like Alpha 1. Alpha 1 is just a clusterfuck, but it's kind of like, you know what? Moves still do what you think they probably would do. A move isn't doing like, why does that move do that, right? You're just kind of like, you look at Alpha 1, you're like, it's kind of a clusterfuck game, but I appreciate the novelty charm of it, right? So hopefully does that make sense? I know it's a weird argument. Again, if Alpha 1 actually had more characters and had better stages, I think people actually would have liked Alpha 1, because I think the core game is more interesting than Alpha 2. You know what I mean? But I don't know if people want me to get into too much about how Alpha 1 works. A lot of people that hate Alpha 1, they're not even like good at the game, right? You know what I mean? So, you know what I mean? A lot of people like, oh, this is how the game works. This works. Like, that's not actually. You've never played this game at a high level. You don't have any idea how this game works, right? You know what I mean? So a lot of people that hate Alpha 1 don't actually understand how it works. Not saying Alpha 1 is the greatest game ever, but so again, all games have their good, all games have their bad. Sometimes it just depends on your perspective at the time. Maybe you have a fond memory of playing the game with someone, but Alpha 2, again, I just think I don't appreciate the bad stuff in Alpha 2. Custom combos are just such a terrible mechanic. And it's also a very hypocritical nature of the fighting game community that some people defend it when they hate other things. It made no sense, right? And a lot of moves, they make no sense, and it morally makes you angry when you play, because you're like, this move, what the fuck were the developers thinking anyway? I get asked this question quite a number of times now, so there I go.